Oh, look, it's 2021, David. What the heck? This is Bring It In, True Hoop's little Zoom from quarantine show. And in a weird twist of fate, David Thorpe in Florida is wearing a hoodie while I'm wearing a t-shirt in New Jersey.
What's the weather like in New Jersey? I haven't looked.
Oh, it's always beautiful here, David. You don't even have to ask.
Is it unseasonably warm, or you just warm it? It's nice and warm and toasty in the Abbott.
Oh, you want to know the real truth? The real reason I'm in a t-shirt is because that's Lola, and that's the heater, and she prefers it if I jack it up a little bit, so it's a little warmer.
I see.
Yeah,
I may have to do a show soon with my dog.
Congratulations on the dog.
We got a new dog. I didn't bring him in today, but he hasn't earned the right to sit through a podcast yet. Although he's pretty chill, I think he'd be fine, but we're going to wait on that a little bit.
I feel like you sprung that on me a little bit. Like I wasn't emotionally prepared for you to.
It was sprung on me too. As I told you guys in our group chat, when your beautiful, amazing wife of 30 plus years says, yeah, I'm going to go look at a dog at a rescue today. You say, okay, drive safely. Like there's no discussion. She went with my daughter. They wanted to rescue a dog. What am I going to argue about rescuing an animal? No. I told you, if we're ever going to really fight about something, which has never happened before in 3 decades plus, it won't be over rescuing an animal. I don't know what it would be. And I know you want to know because you said, I want to know what that argument would be like. I'm not sure, but it won't be about rescuing an animal. That's for sure.
Jessica and I fight over the dog all the time. She says routinely, she's like that Lola's a great last dog.
Yeah.
So this is not a particularly old dog, but we're like debating if we're gonna have another dog, and so I'll see somebody walking a beautiful dog and be like, oh, that'd be a great next dog. And this is our little debate that we have. It's cute.
The screw up that I made is when my last dog, of course, was named Spalding, named after the basketball, which pays our bills. We thought it was honoring the basketball gods. I don't really believe in a real god, but I do believe in the basketball gods, right? And there's more than one. And so when Wilson bought the new rights to the official ball for 21-22, I kind of jokingly said to Chrissy, well, if we get another dog, that you have to name it Wilson, right? You have to honor the basketball gods. So she took it literally. She felt like, hey, we got to do what we got to do. So yeah, I'll have him on at some point. He won't be barking and everything. That was my concern. Our last dog, Vizslas can bark a lot. This one I think had Vizsla parents, but not pure like my last dog because he's maybe 2/3 the size height wise of Spalding. So he's just chiller than Spalding was when he was in his prime. So he'll have him on. All right, we're gonna talk hoops.
Wait, really fast. I think I'm renting that Gary Trent Jr. has a Spalding tattoo.
Not of the dog, of the ball. It'd be cool if you had the dog.
That's cool. Once official NBA basketball.
Yeah.
And that's gonna be a little bit of a bummer, I think.
Let me tell you something. One of the truly underrated and really unthought about things that happen in the world of basketball for people like me is seeing a college player touch an NBA basketball in a real workout for the first time. I'm telling you, it's something. These guys, especially that have always dreamed, and most of them have, they played NBA 2K, right? They may have worked out. They may have used the ball before, like in some gym somewhere. They are out there, especially for these high-level players. But to know that it's their ball going forward from now on, as long as they make the league, it's a cool thing. And they all love it. So Wilson, I think, is keeping basically the same thing they've been using, just a different name on it. But watch, you know what happened the last time they changed the ball? Like, they're not going to just take it easily.
And just to be clear, this ball that they play with in the NBA is not available at Dick's Sporting Goods, right? No. That one has a little logo on it, but it's a different ball, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I've got a bunch in my office right now. Like 12 more coming. They're just not the same. They're almost the same. The $100 balls at Dick's are 120 wherever they are now. But if on occasion when I've run out of real, the true NBA balls and had to go to Dick's and get some, or Amazon I order from, you could feel it immediately. It's just a little bit different. Yeah.
Well, I hope you don't mind me telling this story, but a proud accomplishment of my life is I introduced you to Tommy Shepard, who's a friend of yours now. And I didn't know how it would go. You never know when you introduce some friends. And as I recall it, you called me and you're like, that's the greatest man
Yeah.
he's sending me some official NBA balls. And those things were like hard to separate. Like, is he a good person? Does he send you official NBA balls?
That's a politician right there. When you're someone like
Yeah,
me
he's
who
good.
could always use more balls in our gym, he came while I was training some of his players. He came bearing gifts.
Okay.
Like, that's just a kind person, but also smart.
That means he's getting on the plane from Washington, D.C. with the most uncomfortably large
They
bag,
were
right?
flat.
Just so he can.
They were flat.
Oh, they're flat. Okay.
Yeah. You don't. And now players will travel with a ball that's pumped up. Executives are much smarter. They bring the flat new version. Yeah. Players, listen. Those that are serious always want the NBA ball with them.
I want to sell a special like case so you can travel in style with your one official NBA ball.
Oh, there's some
cool case.
No, there's some. Yeah, I got Max a bag years ago that you could bring a ball in, and when he traveled to camp, he went to a couple places. He brought a ball with him. Yeah, they have basketball bags like that.
For crying out loud, we just spent 6 minutes on dogs and deflated balls. The NBA season is happening. It's happening. We just published in the last minute before the show started your 13 observations from the first 13 days of the season. Do you have a particular favorite you'd like to start with?
I mean, I know that they're probably all about the same. They're just observations, but the Steph Curry 62 points watching last night I watched it live, and I tend to not have volume on because I'm watching multiple games, but this was late in the evening. There was nothing else really to watch. So there was no fans there. And I felt bad about that. Like that was a moment, Henry, when it was getting electric, and you saw it. So he doesn't have his record yet, but he's playing very well. And both teams are fouling absurdly, way too often, right? So they were showing it right now on the video. When Curry hits the record one, the way his teammates reacted was so awesome. The bench went crazy. Guys were running around all over the place. It was so cool. But before that, he had made a three when the game was still competitive. Then Lillard made a three. Then Curry missed a three. Then Lillard made another three. And I thought, ooh, what do we got going on here now? And then Curry just went crazy. But what we wrote about was the game was not over yet. Warriors up 8 after being up 16. And with 2:45 to play, that is still a competitive game when Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum are on the other team. And let's face it, Carmelo, he can get fouled and make threes too. And Curry comes down right to left ball screen, maybe even a double screen, I don't remember. And just in the blink of an eye makes a pass to the corner three for Wiggins. He makes it. Now the game's over. This 2:36, 11-point game. When Steph Curry's on your team, you're not losing an 11-point lead because you're going to have to foul him. And he's almost never going to miss. So I actually talked to a head coach today in a G League about that Curry pass, Henry. And I said, you should grab this clip and send it to all of your guards because none of them would have made that play if they only had 6 points, much less 54. Right. And your career high was 54. They're thinking at least take one more dribble and see what happens, or they're just going to shoot something. Curry was trying to win a basketball game. He made the pass the millisecond he should have made the pass. And it's not a coincidence. It's just good fortune, I guess you would say, that Wiggins was the guy that was open in the corner. Because I think Curry would have made the pass to anyone in that corner, except for maybe Draymond, who probably wouldn't be in the corner, right? It was the right play to make. But the fact that Wiggins got a chance to end the game with that three is an important part of the process for the Warriors, right? They need more from him consistently. And if they get that, James Wiseman keeps making progress, which we wrote about. Draymond Green learns to score again because he's forgotten how to score in the 2 games he's been back. He has 1 point in 2 games. They're interesting for this year. And then next year they get really interesting if Clay and D can play. But I don't think they're a finalist this year. But they'll be interesting, especially as Wiseman improves the way I think he will.
I was thinking about, first of all, I'm not in love with Steph's hairdo. It's a little weird, right? Like he looks a little weird. Do you agree with me on this?
I can tell you that I could not, for the last time I paid attention, he had braids. I don't remember who he had last night. I just don't even look anymore. What does he have?
Okay, well, we'll move on from that silly point of mine. But
if they have purple, I noticed purple hair. I don't notice much else.
Purple hair is good. I would like a little purple hair. I like any hair. But I thought that early in the game, it's a little lifeless in these empty arenas, right? Like it's a little.
Yes.
Gerard and I were talking about this. It feels it feels like a high school gym a little bit, where you're trying to like muster excitement. And well before he had a record-setting number of points, I noticed Steph being overly excited, like the host at the party who's like really wants to make sure everybody has a good time. Like, guys, it's so great, we're having so much fun. And he made like some kind of not that epic early layup, maybe got fouled, and just had like a freak out where he was like punching the floor and stuff. And I actually felt like he was trying to rub two sticks together to like make his team feel the enthusiasm of a game with fans. And at that time, it looked a little weird. They were up, they were like up by, I don't know, some amount that didn't predict anything amazing. And I felt like he kind of conjured the joy that we had in that clip of at the end where everyone's having a real party. I felt like that was a little bit of a conscious effort on Steph's part to make that energy level happen.
Well, this is not something that's been discussed, but to your point, 16 teams got a chance to practice creating joy in a dead atmosphere. They did not, right? This is all brand new to them. And if you go back, and I've done this many times on Synergy, and you watch the early games in the Disney bubble, and then get to the late in the seeding games run with teams like Portland and Phoenix, which were playing meaningful games, and then the playoffs, the energy level, the players got used to it. They're used to practice. They're used to responding to each other with no fans in the gym, but they raised their level up significantly. And the Warriors are just now figuring that out. Like, you have to bring more joy than you did before to make up for what's missing.
Yeah. Another little thing I noticed was I don't mind so much that the broadcasters are all homers, all local ones all over the league. Like, sometimes it's funny, sometimes it's cute. I don't mind that you want to be a little rah, but sometimes it's absurd. Like, I don't remember the exact play in that game, but those Warriors broadcasters are pretty bad at the homerish part. But like literally everything that happens on the court, they're like, that's so amazing. It's like, nah, that was just a regular thing. But there was one part where they're doing that thing broadcasters do, where they're kind of lecturing the guy who caused the foul. You know what I mean? They do that like, oh, well, if you're Andrew Wiggins, you got to know not to blah, blah, blah thing. But sometimes while they're saying that, the replay shows it was a bad call. And then it's just that this is this thing that happens where I find like the broadcasters kind of have their side already picked. They're going to talk about how Steph's great and the other team's bad, and young players might be bad. But when the replay shows that the player didn't do anything wrong, you gotta stop lecturing the player on doing something wrong.
It's true. When you talk about homers, someone commented that the Warriors are the worst. The Warriors announcers, I would not agree with that. Well, I would agree with it if you haven't listened to Matt Harpring for the Utah Jazz. Right? Because now that the legend Tommy Heinsohn has passed on, he is the world's biggest homer for covering NBA games. Yeah. And last night I was watching the Jazz play a good game, and Rudy Gobert did something. I don't remember what happened anymore. I just remember thinking, watching it live, it was close. They were going to review it. And then watching it on tape, I thought, oh, this is really close. And then I thought, but I know Matt Harpring's not going to agree with me. But part of me thought there was a 1% chance he would at least be mildly pragmatic about it. No, absolutely. Oh, they're going to change this, whatever. And I just thought, dude, you just don't see it, right? I had no rooting interest in the game. And it was a close play. They just don't see that, whatever. That's why I normally have the volume off anyway.
And there's something going on with the absentee broadcasting where like they just don't know what's going on some of the times. You know what I mean? Like it used to be pretty rare that they would be just out to lunch, but like there was a late replay and they were like, oh, and CJ McCollum like kicked Curry. And it's like, No, it wasn't CJ McCollum. You know what I mean? There was like a minute of broadcast I talk about CJ McCollum. I'm like, it was never CJ McCollum. They just held this up because it was a 3-pointer.
Right.
It was
You
like,
thought it
you
was a
guys just don't
number.
know what you're talking about. Yeah.
It is, that's hard to do.
No, it's gotta be really hard. Yeah.
I have a friend who does it for ESPN, and he is now in person at games, which worries me. But he initially wasn't. He was doing it from his house in St. Pete. And it's hard.
It's hard. Okay, I think we should, while we're on this topic, we should talk about James Wiseman. Do you like him, David?
Well, I asked you this morning, as someone who was hoping that his team wouldn't win because you wanted your team to win.
I did.
What was it like watching James Wiseman on the bad guys?
Yeah. And I told you I wanted him to have like 50 and 30 and the Blazers won by 1. That would be perfect for me. He's delightful. I'm absolutely rooting for James Wiseman. I'm sad when he checks out of the game. I'm disappointed as the Blazers have some tall players who want to get some rebounds too. You know what I mean?
When I wrote this, I don't get impressed by a lot. I mean, I've been watching great players for a long time, but am I wrong when I wrote like he gets rebounds like he swoops from the sky, like Rodin, like looming on the horizon? Nobody has a chance to get those. He's this enormously long, athletic guy, and his hands have vacuum cleaners inside him. Just sucks him in.
That's very handy. The shot back. Yeah.
Shot back. Yeah. Man.
And he's a left-handed player, but you were particularly excited about a right-handed miss. Why is that?
Yeah, there's been a couple of times where he's when I've watched that he's gone right and missed in one case badly. The other case wasn't so bad because it's the right play. When you're going right, if you bring it back in your left hand, the defender has a way better chance to make a play on the ball. So you have to develop both hands, especially around the rim. Well, all the way around the rim. No one's taking a 10-foot jump with the other hand. But a lot of players haven't ever worked on their weak hand. Like Zebo didn't have a great right hand. He was so talented with his left hand, it almost didn't matter. LeBron did. Like most of the great players that developed their weak hand really good. Tim Duncan, those guys. And the fact that Wiseman's the argument I always make is if you're coaching up guys, and I'm talking about 9th grade, 10th grade, and you're asking to avoid their weak hand to win that game, you're going to lose the more important games later because the better team is going to take away their strength. So I used to cheer for my guys. I wrote this in my book. I would cheer for my guys that missed with their weak hand around the rim. I didn't care. Like I knew down the road, we're going to be better off. Now, if you're in the championship game, it's the last game of the year, then just make the shot. But most of the time, I'd rather you miss doing the right thing than make it for the wrong reasons. And Wiseman is doing that. He is, literally, he is the cliche of just scratching the surface for his potential. We talked about over the weekend, and I wrote this too, I think, where they started the game with what we call a wide pin, which they normally run for Klay Thompson. And they ran it for James Wiseman. And he caught the ball at the 3-point line, but on the line, not behind it. And I think he was just so fucking excited that he got it. He shot it anyway. And he made it, but it was only a 2. So worst shot you can take, long 2. But if you're Steve Kerr, he didn't react, but I'm thinking he was thinking, oh boy, I got some here. I can run wide pins from my 7'6" wingspan gazelle of an athlete center. And he's 19. Yeah. We're going to have some fun. And by the way, he drives on Nurkic, spins, hammer dunks. Like he's got this agility, the nimbleness of this huge man that you don't expect. And I think his demeanor is great. Like, I just feel like he loves to play. He's not playing because he's tall. He's playing because he loves to play. I really get that vibe from him. And I think he's in a great spot. I think Draymond's going to help. I think Kerr is a good player. They don't overplay him. He had 12 and 11 or 12 and 10 last night in 22 minutes. And the Warriors are 3-3. And they might play Minnesota tonight. They could be 4-3. Remember how bad they started? So 0-2 and getting demolished. Draymond helps. We wrote about this too. Draymond, he's the adult on defense, meaning always around the rim, making it hard for guys to score. And then offensively, he's the facilitator that they don't have because D'Angelo Russell is gone. So he's the guy winging the ball around and always knows where Curry is. Always knows. Like if you want to really shut Curry down in the postseason, you will spend 40% of your defensive pregame work on shutting down Draymond offensively. Because by eliminating Draymond more, you'll cut down Curry's points too. Because you watch as you look at per possession where the assist rates from Green to Curry will be. It's going to be the only forward in the league that has a high assist ratio for one partnership. It'll be with Curry because he finds Curry all the time.
I want to take back. I don't know if I said it to you or published it, or maybe it was on the show, but somewhere I mused about, as the Warriors try to cope with recovering from Clay's injury, that maybe they should move Draymond, right? Maybe that's the contract to think about moving now. I don't know if you remember this, but
I do.
Last night was like, that's the stupidest idea I've ever had. I think that, and here's why. Like, I think that for two reasons. One is he's a giant bully, and he's out there with his mouth and his giant body just cracking heads all night long, which is essential to Steph's game.
Absolutely.
Right? Like, Steph gets to run around and do beautiful things because there's this guy standing behind him with the, but also, as you were just explaining, like the Cuisinart offense, as we like to call it, that they have does not work without Draymond. Like when he's out of the game, they don't have that. Not with Kelly Oubre and James Weissman and Andrew Wiggins, right? Like they don't know how to do that. Like Steph's not going to have any 60-odd point games without Draymond there. So
no, that's exactly
I take back everything I said about that. They need that guy.
That's exactly the point. It is not a coincidence that he had 62 in Draymond's second game back. It's not.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean it's automatic. It just can't happen without someone looking for him. Even just the last three of the game, Draymond dribbling like crazy to the three-point line, handed off to Curry, who he knew was coming for the handoff, and he got the three, and he said, he broke 60, which is not an easy mark to break.
Well, I'll tell you the exact portrait of what life looks like for Steph without Draymond is Damian Lillard's career presently, where he's a similar shooter, but remember late he like is tired and covered really hard and ends up like diving out of bounds to lob a failed pass attempt. Like that's what life's like when you don't have a giant man creating space for you and finding angles for you and creating opportunities, right? Like it's just too hard. Like it's too hard.
I think your point on being a bully is super good too, because Clay also isn't that guy. Clay's the relief pitcher in baseball that is used to coming in, up 3-2, bottom of the ninth, bases loaded for an important game, and you just have to keep everything in check. Like your brain might be spinning at that relief pitcher. You probably don't know baseball too well. You British people don't understand our game. You have to be.
I don't understand what you're talking about.
Right, right. Yeah, between Portland and London, not a whole lot of baseball being played. Clay is just, he's just machine. Draymond is all fire and energy and computer brain. Don't forget that, right? He and Lowry are the two guys in the league that might win a UCF battle in the ring, but also might win some kind of math contest or just fastest thinker, right? Chess contest. These guys are brilliantly fast thinkers on the court. So that combination is the reason why they're all league players for a reason. They have all those things going, and they can't jump.
Just had to edit the dog out for a second. It's getting a little R-rated back there.
Okay, enough about the 3-3 Warriors.
I mean, we could talk about them all day, though. All right, I think a casual Troop reader would say, like, "Oh, David, you hate LaMelo Ball, but now he's showing you up." Do you want to address them for a second?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I wrote in the piece, and we included it today. But when I wrote about him, a couple months ago, I acknowledged that there was a chance he could be a star. I like him more now than I did in Australia. You know why? Because he plays differently now. If he had played like this in Australia, I would have said, yeah, I understand why you might take him second. There's no way you should take him above Weissman based on anything I've seen even now. But LaMelo's fun to watch now. He does what we call one-touch passing, which is a soccer term, right? But we use it in basketball too. LaMelo doesn't do it as much as I think I'd like him. I'm sure I'd like him to. He does dribble a lot, but he's done a lot of there's no one should be upset with LaMelo for his passing. He's got a lot of gifts to the passer. He's trying on defense. He's not good at defense now, but I'm not mad at him at all for that. That's a work in progress. It's not like he has a bunch of teammates that are good. Rozier is worse than him, and he ain't a rookie. LaMelo is shooting well, 40% from three, 42%, I think. That's a surprise. It doesn't mean anything. It's a week, right? 2 weeks. But it's better than 5%. He's making threes. His shot looks good. The mechanics aren't great. The arc is good, which I think helps him. He can't finish around the rim. That may change. He's better than he was the first couple games, which is to be understood. But I just think he's fitting in. He's humble on the court, but he still has fun. I don't know that he wants to win. It's hard to say with a bad team. He's young, but he's got a shot. He definitely has a shot. I don't know if he should have been third. Pat Williams is really good for Chicago. I love Denny Avdia, who I wrote about. We'll talk about him. But the Hornets didn't make a terrible decision drafting him based on what we're seeing. Well, as I told you on the phone today, when Brandon Jennings was a rookie, I thought, man, it must be fun playing with that guy. He is a fun guy to play with. He's fast. He moves the ball. And then he started getting selfish. And we all know what happened to Brandon Jennings. He didn't become a great NBA player. We'll see what happens with LaMelo. There's a lot of time to go way up or not get so much better.
Do you think they keep all three guards?
No, I think they have. If I was them, I would not be trading Devontae Graham. That's for sure. He and LaMelo can play together just fine. Devontae's small. I think Rozier, who had a big 40-some point game 1 or 2, I think game 2 of the season, he's not playing good defense at all. But some team will probably go after him. But I wouldn't force it. If you bring Ball off the bench all year, you've only done a service for him. Like, you don't have to just hand him the ball because that's pissing off everybody else. He's not ready for that yet. Just slowly work him in. He's doing fine now. We'll see how he handles a rough spot, which a rough spot could be coming. It typically does for rookies more than once. No one's spiking the ball and saying touchdown, but he's done fine.
Yeah. For a long time, your favorite player has been Jeremy Grant. Is that still? It seems like you're a little nervous about him holding that spot this season.
Oh yeah, but not because of anything he's doing wrong.
Okay.
So he's having a career year, which very much excites me. I never predicted he'd be a 20-point per game scorer, nor do I think necessarily he'll be this year. He's done it 5 games in a row in Detroit. He's doing great. He's having a career year for sure. We know what kind of defensive player in the postseason he can be. This is a very, very good player. But I love Mikal Bridges from Phoenix, who I never watched for 1 second in Villanova. I'm guessing he was on the team that won a championship. I really don't remember. But I was wrong for not liking him. I should have paid more attention in college. I just wasn't my role then to study that stuff. He's really good. He's better than 40% from 3, cuts all the time, really guards. I think he's their best defensive player. He's good. He did not shoot well last night, but he's a very good player. And I love guys that know their role and play it to the extreme and do it on both ends, right? The guys that do it on both ends. And yeah, he's fun to watch. Just you can't watch his Suns game and not notice him. I didn't realize he's their second leading scorer. He scores more than 8. Booker's their leading scorer. He's their second leading scorer. So yeah, you can't watch a game and not see him all the time. Yeah, he's very good.
We're gonna have to pause the show for me to let the dog out. See, she's like, no, she's like, you gotta go out immediately.
Look how sweet she is, just sitting there.
I think this is how she begs. She's a very quiet dog, but that's her being super annoyed with me. She's like, I need a little service here.
So if you have to go let her out?
I mean, it's up to us, really. You think I should?
I don't care. Is she gonna be all right? She's not gonna bite you, is she?
I promise she's not gonna attack. Yeah.
We're teaching our dog to how to ring a bell when he wants to get a walk outside the house, because we have to keep him on a leash. She's got heartworms, so we can't just let him run loose in our backyard. So he's got to tell us.
If we had a bell, she would ring it. Look at her though. She's okay. Hold on. Okay.
Jerry Seinfeld has some funny jokes about how if Martians came to the world, they would think that dogs were the ones in charge.
Yeah.
Dogs and kids.
Sure.
Yeah, they'd be right.
Sure. All right. Your buddy Denny Avdia. Actually, I love how you described this little moment guarding Kyrie. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah. So I wish we were buddies. I like a lot of Israelis. I haven't met Denny, but he's amazing. He's an amazing player. So yeah, in the game against the Nets, which the Wizards won, by the way.
Yeah.
There was just a moment where Denny got switched on to Kyrie, and Kyrie has, I call it a surge dribble. We all know what a surge is. And Damian Lillard has a great surge. Steph Curry, okay. Kyrie probably has the best. Harden too. That's one speed to another speed in the blink of an eye. And it doesn't have to be 0 to 60. It can be 40 to 60 too. That's also very hard to guard. If you think the guy's going at full speed, but he has another gear, you're going to get toast. You're going to get toasted. So Kyrie has this 6 surge dribble, and he gives it to Denny. And Denny, who's 6'10", he's a very tall man. He just says, slides, no problem at all, nothing. Kyrie's got nothing. And to Kyrie's credit, he just makes it pass. But I know Kyrie was thinking, oh, I got to have to cook him something a little different next time because that didn't work. And meanwhile, I looked up his defensive ratings. He's pretty much the best defender on the team. His overall, I want to say his offensive defensive margin is 10 when most of his guys on the team are negative. He like LaMelo Ball, if Denny Avdija shot 40% from 3 in the EuroLeague, he's going top 3 for sure. I'm sorry, for sure. I shouldn't say that. Top 5 for sure, which is what people thought he might go top 5 because he couldn't shoot. Well, now he's shooting great. Doesn't mean it'll last. We don't know if it will, but he's doing everything right. He starts for them. He didn't play in the fourth quarter yesterday, curiously, because he's been playing fourth quarter minutes, and they won, not that because he didn't play. But, yeah, as the season evolves and they learn to take care of him more, because right now they're not thinking about him at all, he's going to end up having quietly a very, very good rookie year, which is to be expected. He was a very good player last year in high levels of Europe, so he can really play. The Wizards did good by drafting him.
You noticed that DeMar DeRozan is shooting threes all of a sudden.
Yeah. So I give you credit. I asked you on the phone this morning, how many threes a game do you think he took last year? And you said 0.4 and it was 0.5. Very good by you. I wouldn't have guessed that.
Thank you.
He's at 2.5 now. And he is also making over 40%. And he's having a career season. His PR is over 24. He's playing great. Now, LaMarcus Aldridge is out. So their team isn't very good. They've lost 4 straight. They're a unique mix of good young players at the guard and the wing position with Jakob Poeltl inside, who's just okay, not really a great offensive player, obviously. LaMarcus would help them a ton. And DeRozan is keeping them afloat. They're losing, but they're competitive. And it makes me wonder if maybe they're going to move him, because I don't know if he'll come back next year. Maybe he will. I don't know if they want him, right? I don't know how much he fits that way. But this DeMar DeRozan can start for a lot of teams or be a great 6 man for a contender. He's going to have some options. This version, the guy that kills you from mid-range, kills you from the line, and then can make threes also, and will take a couple a game. Like a 2.5 isn't 10, but it's not 0.5. Yeah, it's great to see that from him. Seems like a tremendous kid. Well, he's a young man now who understands I got to do more with LaMarcus out. And even though Spurs are losing, he's doing well. I'm glad to see it.
He's proof. He's one of the 100 proofs that like the game has changed. I mean, he has a really good skill set for how the game was played 20 years ago or 15 years ago, right? And this step now, this offseason where he's like, oh, I guess I need to be able to do this, makes him part of the current NBA offensive approach, right? As opposed to just murdering people with the ball.
Yeah, and he did it when his last season in Toronto, he shot over 3 a game. So he's kind of returning back to that. But I give him a lot of credit for something else. He was not a good player when he came in the league. He was also a one-and-done guy from USC. He didn't know how to get fouled. Think about that. DeMar DeRozan, who if you look at the dictionary and look up free throw, you might see his name, but you don't see James Harden. Like DeRozan gets fouled all the time. That wasn't how he used to play. He learned how to dribble, which, to go back to the Warriors, Andrew Wiggins still can't do it. He just can't do what these guys can do. It's hard when you're that tall, but it's something that would help Wiggins a ton. DeRozan's long figured that out. And he's just proven to be a guy that is willing to adapt and change. And I would tell you, when guys have reached this all-star status, they don't like to change. No. But it doesn't mean they won't do it. He's an example of someone that will.
This is not something you wrote about, but I just noticed this funny thing. We talk about the Pelicans, but I will tell you that for various reasons, I just looked up the worst free throw shooters in the league so far. And it's a little surprising to me that most of them are Pelicans. Like there's so many Pelicans on this list.
DeAndre Jordan's got to be up there, right?
What's that?
DeAndre Jordan's got to be on that list, hasn't he?
So right now, I mean, this is a stupid sample size.
He may not have qualified even.
Like I think they've shot 10 or 12 free throws to make the list, but it's Bismack Biyombo, Andre Drummond, Rudy Gobert, Zion Williamson, Paul Millsap, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Ben Simmons, Tim Hardaway Jr., Marvin Bagley, PJ Washington, Wendell Carter Jr., Thomas Bryant, Derek Favors, Christian Wood. If you look at last year, you get Steven Adams was third worst in the league. Zion, Jackson Hayes, all in the top 10. That's a bet on a certain kind of player in the middle for David Griffin, right? Like they're not valuing shooting at that position at all.
So I wrote about the Pelicans. It was about Zion, right? And his contests, he leads the league in contested threes from a defensive standpoint.
Right.
So what's funny is Hollinger, our buddy John, tweeted out a funny comment about a very, very poor contest that Zion made. And John was right. And that surprised me because when I've been watching the Pelicans, I thought, oh, I think this has been a priority for Stan. Now, I will tell you up front, a longtime student of mine, Corey Brewer, is a coach on that staff. We have never discussed this one time. And I've not talked to Corey, I think, since before the regular season started. So this is just, to my eyes, they were trying to contest threes. And then when John tweeted that, I thought, well, maybe I'm just wrong. And then I looked it up, and Zion leads the league in contested threes. That also means people are shooting a lot of threes against him, which to me means they think they're very open. So the NBA didn't list how close those contests were. It just qualified as a contest, whatever, 3 feet, 4 feet, 2 feet, whatever. I don't know what their qualifications are. But there's no question on John's video, Zion was very lazy. He looks very heavy to me, like 30 pounds overweight. When I say those numbers, let me just say this publicly here. People tend to freak out. It seems like a huge number, but I've been doing this a long time. These are gigantic people. And so 30 pounds to them is 12 to you, not you personally, to the average person, right? To you, it might be 2, but that's 30. He might have to lose 50 to really be as slim as I think his body could allow. I don't know how much weight Kevin Love has lost. It ain't 11, right? It's a big number. These guys are enormous men, twice the size of many people out there pretty much in terms of their overall, he's got to be 270, 280, 290. And I would guess more closer to 290, or at least when I saw them play a couple of games ago, closer to that than 270. But it's nice to know that at least according to NBA stats, he is contesting. Their team is contesting, which is the point I wanted to make. They're playing defense. They're top 10 in defense. This is why Stan was hired. They're trying to chase off shooters. It's coming at the expense of free throw shooting for guys. I think they're focused on that. I think they're making sure they always have someone around the rim to cover up space. I did not, and we might do a part 2 for my observations later in the week. I will go back to New Orleans because one of the guys I've enjoyed watching most this year is Brandon Ingram. So I want to do a better dive into him than I have so far. But they're guarding. They're definitely trying to guard, and it's working. We'll see how things go. But Zion is not scoring like he did last year. His scoring is down, and I think conditioning is a factor. And I think he's using energy for defense, which I don't think he did the same last year. So that'll come around. He'll learn to do both. But they're winning games now without getting as much from him as I think they can get, and with bad shooting from the line, it's a good sign for New Orleans going forward. I still think they're too shallow. They lack shooting, they lack depth, but they've got 2 stars in Zion and Ingram. That's more than most of the league.
Yeah. I wonder if this contested threes is a little bit like the problem they had in baseball fielding that I learned about from the Moneyball book and movie, where like if it's right outside your range, then you're seen as making a mistake. But if it's way outside your range, you didn't make a mistake at all. So, but this punishes players with a big range. If you see what I'm saying?
I do. And so I will tell you this: I cannot reveal who I'm working with on this, but I've long contended that early, Oklahoma City calls it a stick hand. Early contests is a more effective contest.
Right.
Because if you can plant doubt in the shooter's mind at the onset of his shot, this is my opinion, you're going to have a better impact than if you, by the time he's already in his motion and you're contesting, he's committed to the shot. He's not thinking about it anymore. This is not always the case. I just think it's the predominant case, right? And so I think that guys that contest, but contest late, you might as well not contest at all. So to me, the more important stat is the early hand contest. And I don't know where they rank on that, but I can look that up on second. It's on Second Spectrum. So I've got sources that can do that.
This is, not to be too much of a plus minus maniac, but this is one of the reasons I like it. Is like, we don't really know what leads to the good effect, but if over time we know which teams have the good effect, right? Like, so you're gonna want to see a lot of misses. You want to see fewer threes attempted. You want to see more bad shots, right? And more contested twos, this kind of stuff. So this is where I think it's fun to have both, right? You'd want to see the things that we guess make a good defense and the things that make a good defense. They want to peek in at it both ways, right? Not just from one.
That's right. And then we're talking 3-point shooting. Let's flip it. Did I write who the 3 leading shooting teams are? Did I put that in there?
No.
I thought I did. I think I did, and maybe it was after you went to publish it.
Maybe.
The 3 top shooting teams right now from 3. You want to guess who they are?
I think you're telling me the Clippers are one of them.
They're one. I wrote that. The other 2 are the Lakers and the Bucks.
Oh, those are good teams. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's 4 teams shooting better than 40% from 3.
Yeah.
Lakers, Clippers, Bucks, the 3 favorites you would say going into the season, and the Hawks.
Yeah.
Atlanta's 4th, which is interesting. So, it's a very small sample size, but those elite teams, if they're not just elite, they're not elite because of their shooting. They have amazing talent with Giannis, the rest. But if they are 40% 3-point shooting teams with those guys, we know how the Bucks can play defense, when the Lakers play defense. We know how the Clippers should be able to play defense. Good luck beating those guys, right? Yeah. It's still kind of top heavy that way. But I also wrote in there that I noticed when I was studying the Spurs, they're shooting about the same as last year from 3. I thought they were below that because like Rudy Gay shooting badly, Derek White shooting really badly. But as a team, they're at 37% and 0.2. Well, last year at 37.6%, they were 4th in the league in 3-point shooting. This year at 37.2, they're 12th in the league. There's a lot of teams shooting better. There's what I write last year. There were 8 teams shooting, maybe 7 teams shooting better than 37%. This year there's 14. Maybe that'll come down, right? Maybe. I don't know. Last year was a weird year because you also had 8 games in the bubble. Not every team was in it. But teams are shooting well right now for sure from 3. So we'll have to see how that goes.
Yeah. There's a statistical thing here, right? Like I know John Hollinger would say like so by the time that we all worked together at ESPN, the highest PER ever recorded for a season was about 30. And every year Christmas, there'd be someone who was at 34 or 32. And every year John would say, we're not writing the story. This is not the best season ever because doing it for a month is not doing it for a season. Like lots of people have done 34 for a month. That might not be true what I just said. I'm imagining things John would have said. Maybe he would have said that. But this is part of it is just like it's much more likely to happen over a short period. Like everything else, right?
Right.
So it's probably just wash away, but
probably, but that's why I brought it up is because we have such a uniqueness right now with no fans. It's just something to watch, and we have more shooters. There are more shooters on teams now than ever before in the history of the NBA. More teams value it, and there's more guys that can do it. And so, it's just, I was watching the Blazers play last week, and Damian took a swing 35-footer.
Yeah.
Not off the dribble where someone's guarding you or off you some. Who's contesting that shot?
Yeah.
Someone on the Lakers, it was a Laker game. They tried. Whoever it was running as fast as they could, but that's a long way to go. And so if you're doing that and spread out that much, you've got enough guys that can shoot it, we might see just more teams shoot more threes accurately, which is why I want to follow it. And no fans are in there.
Another thing is
no fans.
Like, okay, think about the defense that would stop that, right? Think about whatever we're going to have. By the time we're in the conference finals, there'll be some teams emerging who are just crisp and athletic and angry and just circulating perfectly to stop all of that, right? That requires a kind of honing and teamwork and focus that I think we're all particularly terrible at here in the quarantine Zoom era, right? Like we're just a little out of sync, a little step slower thinking. We haven't had quite this many interactions, right? We're a little, don't notice quite as well. I think all of us, right? And I feel like I see that in the team defense. I mean, every game I watched this year, like it seems like we're flooded with, passing the ball to the referee or just little mental recognition lapses that are not normal to NBA level play, right? And I think that actually helps team-wide three-point shooting because somebody's open.
Yeah, you're right. How many preseason games they typically play? Is it 6?
I think it's usually 8.
8. Okay, that was my initial thought, 8 or 9. So we're pretty close to just finishing that right now. Like teams have all played about 5 or 6 games. They played 2 or 3 preseason games. We're just getting started. Yeah. I think that no fans, no preseason, whatever. This is just something to pay. I'm paying attention to it, but it goes to another point where if you want to take those threes away when you're that far out, especially, like you're giving up something. You can't have it all. There's nobody can guard anyone one-on-one all the time in space. You can't do it. You're going to get beat. All right. So now if you help, that's when the kickouts come, right? So this is where I think having bigger guys that can beat you up inside is valuable.
Yeah.
Because if you're going to spread out, I coached this, amazing post player in high school. We used threes just to make more layups.
Right.
I used to always think about like a boxer. In boxing, you normally, the body, Mickey says this in the Rocky movies, the body, and then you go for the head later. But for our team, our best player by far was the big guy in the middle. So we went head, got you spread out, and then just killed you with 65% scoring in the paint, right? Yeah. And so James Weissman, Nurkic, think of these big guys that we see. They're of value. People thought we were trending away, but no. If you can move and cover ground and have some skill too, there is a value to you to finish inside over people for sure.
Did you see Randy when I said that everyone's not mentally sharp, right? Randy said, "Speak for yourself, Henry." Gerard is on his game, which I guess is a sign we should invite Gerard into the conversation.
Yeah,
Gerard's here to be extremely sharp. That's what we need.
Randy's passive-aggressive reminder that we're 2 old dudes that are kind of boring without Gerard.
My dog's like, Gerard, can you please open the door? This guy's no skill.
What's up, Gerard?
I don't know how sharp, but definitely feeling on my game.
Happy New Year, Gerard.
Happy New Year.
Right on.
Anything?
Happy New Year.
Anything you're seeing over the weekend?
I think I'm obligated to say, as every person in and around the NBA and basketball is obligated to say, small sample size. We're only 5 or 6 games in. So yes, that is true. I think at 20 games, we can start making some inferences about things. Nothing is surprising me per se. I will say I thought Denver, I think on another show, I picked Denver to get the under on their win total this year. And so far I'm looking good. Like I thought defensively they would leak to start the season, and they're leaking. The other thing too is that with all the COVID stuff and the contact tracing, and we don't know like day to day who's playing and who's not playing, right? All of a sudden the guy could be out for 5 days, and that's going to screw up your whole team's rotation and whatever you're doing. So I think it's a little wacky right now. I love what I'm seeing in Phoenix. I think that team is playing with high IQ, and of course we can attribute that to Chris. They're all just playing smarter, right? Like those guys are all talented, but they're doing smart things with the basketball now, less dumb things, which is good. Toronto has me a little concerned, namely Pascal, because something's just going on with him. I saw that game, I think it was Indiana maybe, where he fouled out and just walked straight to the locker room and didn't stay on the bench. I was like, oh, that's going to be a problem. The next game he got suspended. It's just, something's just up. He's just not, obviously he's not shooting well and he's not playing well offensively, but he's also getting called for a lot of fouls. His foul rate's like ticked up a lot, and it's affecting him like everywhere. He's just not a happy person playing basketball, and so that's a problem. But
I'm glad. When I asked the question, I was hoping you were going to hit Pascal because I did not see what you just described. I read about it on Twitter, but nothing specific. I know that Toronto as a team is shooting very poorly from three, but taking a ton of threes, and they're super competitive. I really like Toronto going into the season and felt like Chris Boucher is going to be an upgrade over what they had. He's been terrific. He's not been the problem. Better than I even expected. They aren't shooting well, and Siakam stinks.
Yeah.
And apparently has these other issues. That's a concern because they'd be really good if he was just what he was last year.
Yeah,
they'd be fine. They're guarding. They're if he was scoring more, they would probably shoot better as a team too. That's concerning.
They're adjusting to the type of defense they're playing without Gasol and Ibaka, right? Which is, again, it's still an adjustment, even though like you have to get used to what that is. And I think that's what's happening right now, right? Like every team this month, I think, just about play 17 games or so in 31 days, which means there's no rest, right? You're playing
no practice, right? No practice.
It's every other night, so there's no practice at all. For a team with continuity, you're fine because your guys, we're fine. Yeah. New teams, it's like, well, games are that's your
practice. That's right.
Which is a problem if you're trying to like win and do well, and and we're seeing it.
Yeah.
Did anybody read Jason Quick's story about oh my gosh, I'm having a senior moment. The Blazers first round draft pick last year who got bad COVID.
I didn't see that.
God.
Nasir Little.
Yes.
Nasir was very sick, like very, very sick. Like he has to like go back to the beginning of training and like really do a lot of work to see if he can get back to NBA shape. That to me was the first. Like, so Marcus Elliott was on this show and he was basically saying, we understand this virus. Basically I don't have a lot of anxiety. It's going to affect elite athletes profoundly. And he's been proven broadly, it seems correct. With some questions about heart disease and this and that, but this one was different, right? This was a guy who was rocked, like could hardly walk, shivering for more than a week. It just struck me as like, as we're like coronavirus has been a little bit of a sports distraction in the sense of like, we lost him for 10 days. What a bummer for our team and our competitiveness. And suddenly I was reminded like, no, it's also a real health thing. Like even for people, I mean, Nasir Little's whatever he is, 21 and a super fit guy.
Yeah.
I have a longtime student of mine who's a high level player overseas, and he got it. And he told me stopped fevering after a couple of days, but couldn't play with his baby for more than 5 minutes and having to go lay back down. And this guy is like, he could have been cast on Game of Thrones, no problem. Like super crazy fit, 2% body fat. He has ice cream and pizza one day a year. I know because he texts me a picture. Like he is as religious as you can get about his diet. Married to a model. She also got COVID. Not as sick as him. You don't know. I think he's doing better. I'm waiting to hear from him today because he's overseas. But it's a concern for all these guys. And it goes back to way back months ago. I'm thinking, is it viral load? Like it's just dumb luck, as it turns out. But I think these players are respectful of what it can mean, and they don't want to be quarantined anyway.
Yeah.
Right. They don't want to be quarantined anyway. Hey, have you guys seen the Magic? Have you seen Markelle Fultz?
I've seen a little bit, not a ton of Magic.
A little bit.
He's doing good. Not great, good, but he's 22.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's doing good.
I'll tell you what else. Am I looking up who's shooting free throws well? Cole Anthony hasn't missed all year.
And Fultz, look at Fultz's Fultz is making free throws. This was the guy that was jacked up on his free throw. He is making progress there. It's an encouraging sign.
Henry, maybe that's something for the uncanny valley.
Yeah. You want to talk more about that, Gerard?
It's just something that I might be working on. I heard friend of the show, Seth Partnow, and Danny LaRue talking about it. And it's just this theory basically that the more something approximates like a human experience or a human being, but it's not actually human, we have a sort of like not great reaction towards it, right? It's like, okay, this is sort of human-like, but it's not the real thing, right? And we're like,
Like what's an example of that?
So it's like sort of like it's AI, right? Like it's like I mean, this is a family show, but it's like a sex robot, right? Like it's not. You're like, all right, this is cool, but it's not quite the real.
Like Westworld. You're talking about Westworld.
Yeah, Right. It's like, okay, this kind of works. Caleb, yo.
Don't whatever you
Oh,
do,
God.
people don't see Westworld. Oh, jeez.
Yes.
Judy, what's going on? Why are we screen
that
sharing
is a-
during the
that is a
sexual
not
that
real
portion
human.
of the show?
Did you guys watch Westworld?
No.
Good. Did you
No.
watch it, Henry? Judy watched it.
I
But she's
saw like
smart-
an episode or two. It's a little
She's-
too creepy for me.
She's smarter than me, so maybe she appreciated it more. But my wife and I, we watched it all. We were like, "What are we doing? Why do we hate each other? Why do we
Terrifying
hate each other so
Uncanny
much?"
Valley shit right there. But anyway, the Uncanny Valley had to go through how they're trying to make the arena experience what it normally is like. And I think I was watching the first 76ers home game of the year, and I was like, because when you're watching League Pass, there's no commercial, you're just watching the arena. I'm like, why is the DJ and the dancers here? What the hell is going on? There's nobody in, and they're just trying to recreate that. I'm like, this is weird. And so I'm like, if I think it's weird, the players gotta think this is strange and bizarre. So anyway,
that's why Henry's point on Steph Curry, like you have to find a way to make it get a rhythm. Basketball is very much a rhythmic thing. There's a feel to it. It's like a dance, right? Like good conversation. It's like good jazz. That's why they call it that. There's a connection, and fans are part of it. The atmosphere is part of it. Well, not now. So you've got to make up for that somehow. The teams in Orlando did a great job. When I'm watching Synergy, I only realize I'm watching a game from the bubble if I look at the top of the screen and see there's no fans there. The games look the same. And I don't know that I feel that way. Of course, there's not intensity right now like there would be. It's not quite there. And I thought the piped in fan noise isn't as good. I think it's because the arenas are so big.
yeah, they're cavernous. I mean, even with the stupid cloth, you can't enclose that sound. So it's not bouncing off everything. It's just
That's what it is.
it's an
Why insist on the stadium? Like the problem is all of the empty seats. It's like, well, why are we doing this here? Like, is there nowhere better to do this? Like, since we're putting billions of dollars into this TV product that suffers for its location, like, just do it in a soundstage, right?
There's not a That's what you'd have to do. Every hotel has something like that. Every
Hollywood studio, right?
Every
Like you want
five-star
to be on the Paramount lot, right?
Right.
I don't know exactly what it looks like, but it needs to look amazing. I do have a kind of a long-standing, like the NBA will play upbeat music with upbeat like t-shirt cannons and dancing, even when it's like just a 3-minute delay. Like I feel like their impulse is just up, up, up. Whereas like I think really our human emotions don't quite go up all the time, right? Like,
they definitely do not.
I hate
you want to have a little ebb and flow. And this to your point, Draw, there was a moment where they're like, coming out of a timeout. I forget which arena, but some arenas are going crazy with the dancers, like the platforms halfway up and like just, dancing like they're having the time of their lives. I'm like, there is no way you're having the time of your life down 14 in an empty goddamn chasm, like with a frigid, cold drive home to your alone apartment where you're going to spend the rest of the week. Like, there's no way you're this excited. I smell bullshit. Like, it just doesn't, it feels like totally unconvincing to me. I'm like, we might need a new, like, can we take it to a 7? You know what I mean? Like, can we
Henry, I used to think Henry was going to try to take over the world one day, like Lex Luthor, but now he's getting to be more like Larry David. He wants us to curb our enthusiasm a little bit. That's what curb your enthusiasm means.
Vary the levels.
Just temper a little bit.
Yeah, that's.
I love a 10. I just want a little time in the arena. Can we have it just be a 7? Like I gotta get.
I'd like to be able to talk and think a little bit.
Coach, I know. We talk about like teams sort of like getting used to playing with one another. Something I've sort of noticed, and I don't know how much of Brooklyn you watched, but how difficult is it? I mean, I can see. Everyone's like, okay, Katie and Kyrie figuring out what to do with each other. And I'm like, I think they've kind of figured, they're fine. How are it's the other guys and how you learn to play off of two guys like that who are literally like the sun, right? Like, and knowing where to be, because watching them slow closely, and it's little things, Coach. It's like when you're fading to the corner, you being 2 beats off to the left, and Durant sees the corner and he throws there, and it's out of bounds because you're just not 2 shades over. And knowing this is where he looks when he turns this way. Like, of course, it's repetition, but I think it's more for the other guys, them seeing how they're going to get better playing off of those two.
But you're right, but that's standard. Like it's the same corner for every team. The spacing is more or less the same. How you get there is based on the system you're employing, but the spacing should be the same. Only LeVert is challenged the most because he's the only guy that can also, now that Spencer's out, that can create for himself with the ball. I mean, if they're rotation players, that's got to be okay. Is it my turn? How do I do it? I think he'd be a great cutter. He's not doing that as much as he probably could, but their issue is defense anyway. So we always knew it would be. They've got to decide they want to guard people. That's something Steve Nash and crew have got to focus on. They're fine. I had them picked as the 6th best team in the East. I probably am wrong by a slot or two because Durant looks great as long as he continues to look great. But they've got to guard if they're going to be a serious contender, in my opinion.
All right, we're out of time. Judy's letting us know. Greg, I just want to super clarify. The official true position is that we love the t-shirt cannon. Love it. I want to be super clear on that. That's like the best thing.
I don't. It's $1. It's a $1 t-shirt, people.
Oh, sorry. Show's over. Gotta go.
Bye, guys. Be safe. See you Wednesday.
Thank you, Judy.